God knows that you are tired. There are nights when the silence is loud, when you lie awake, staring into the darkness, and you whisper the words no one else hears. I'm tired. Tired of being strong. Tired of pretending you're okay. Tired of fighting battles nobody knows you're fighting. And sometimes the greatest exhaustion is not physical, it is spiritual, it is emotional, it is the heaviness of carrying what you were never meant to carry alone. But hear this, and hear it deeply. He sees what no one else sees. There are moments in your life that no one applauds. No one posts about them. No one even notices them. The quiet endurance, the silent sacrifices. The strength it takes just to get out of bed and face another day when your heart feels heavier than your body. People see your productivity. They see your smile. They see the version of you that shows up. But they do not see the battle it took to become that version. God does. He sees the tears you wipe away quickly when you hear footsteps coming down the hall. He sees the messages you type and then delete because you don't want to be a burden. He sees the way you encourage everyone else while you are starving for encouragement yourself. He sees the exhaustion behind your eyes when you say, I'm fine. You may feel overlooked, misunderstood, forgotten, but you are not unseen. There are prayers you prayed that never left your lips. Just a sigh, just a groan, just a look upward when you didn't even have words anymore, and heaven understood every syllable of that silence. When you felt like your faith was weak because all you could say was, God, please, He counted that as a complete prayer. He sees the private pressure, the financial stress you haven't told anyone about, the relationship strain you're trying to hold together, the insecurity you hide behind confidence, the memories that still ache when certain songs play, the regret that revisits you at 2 a.m. Nothing about your struggle is invisible to Him, and here is what makes this so powerful. He does not just see your pain. He sees your perseverance. He sees that you didn't quit. He sees that you're still trying. He sees that even though you felt empty, you kept giving. Even though you felt confused, you kept trusting. Even though you felt hurt, you chose not to become bitter. Other people may misinterpret your silence as weakness. They may assume you have it easy. They may never fully grasp what it costs you to stay kind, to stay faithful, to stay hopeful. But God measures differently. He measures the nights you stayed up worrying and still showed up in the morning. He measures the times you wanted to walk away but stayed committed. He measures the self-control it took not to say what you really felt. He measures the courage it took to keep believing when nothing around you seemed to change. You are not dramatic. You are not overreacting. You are carrying more than people know, and the one who formed your heart is watching over it. When you feel alone in a crowded room, He sees you. When you feel forgotten in a busy world, He sees you. When you feel like you are giving more than you are receiving, He sees you. And because He sees, He cares. Your exhaustion has not gone unnoticed. Your faithfulness has not been wasted. Your tears have not fallen on empty ground. The world may overlook the quiet battles, but heaven never does. Your weariness is not weakness. Somewhere along the way, many of us were taught that being strong means never feeling tired. That faith means never doubting. That courage means never breaking. So when exhaustion hits real soul, deep exhaustion, we start to question ourselves. Asterisk, what's wrong with me? Asterisk, asterisk, why can't I handle this? Asterisk, asterisk, maybe I'm just not strong enough. Asterisk, but being tired does not mean you are weak. It means you have been carrying something heavy, and some of you have been carrying it for a long time. You have been the strong one in your family, the dependable one, the responsible one, the one who fixes, who helps, who shows up. People lean on you because you have proven you can handle it, but what they don't see is that strength costs something. Holding everyone else together sometimes means you are falling apart quietly. That is not weakness. That is endurance. Weariness often comes after a long battle. Soldiers do not collapse because they are fragile. They collapse because they have fought. Mothers do not grow tired because they are incapable. They grow tired because they give constantly. Leaders do not feel drained because they are unqualified. They feel drained because responsibility is heavy. You are tired because you have been fighting battles, emotional battles, mental battles, spiritual battles. You have fought to keep your faith when prayers felt unanswered. You have fought to keep loving when you were misunderstood. You have fought to keep going when quitting felt easier. And sometimes the deepest fatigue comes from fighting thoughts no one else hears. The constant self-doubt, the silent comparisons, the pressure to be more, do more, achieve more. You wake up already tired, not because you didn't sleep, but because your mind never rests. That is not weakness. It is the weight of being human in a world that rarely slows down. Even the strongest people in Scripture grew weary. Even prophets asked, "Is this too much?" Even leaders felt overwhelmed. Weariness has never disqualified anyone from being used by God. If anything, it reveals how much you have poured out. But here is the danger: when you mistake weariness for weakness, shame creeps in. You start hiding your exhaustion. You start pretending you're fine. You start criticizing yourself for feeling what any human would feel under pressure. And shame drains you more than the battle itself. You need to hear this with compassion. You are allowed to be tired. You are allowed to say, "This is hard." You are allowed to admit, "I don't have the strength right now." You are allowed to rest without apologizing for it. Strength is not pretending you feel nothing. Strength is continuing even when you feel everything. Sometimes true strength looks like crying and still praying. Sometimes it looks like taking a break instead of breaking down. Sometimes it looks like asking for help instead of silently drowning. Your exhaustion is evidence that you have been trying. You have been showing up. You have been caring deeply. You have been carrying responsibilities that matter. Weakness would have walked away long ago, but you're still here, still hoping, still believing, still standing, even if you're standing on trembling legs, and trembling legs still count as standing. Do not let the enemy label your weariness as failure. It is not failure to need rest. It is not failure to feel overwhelmed. It is not failure to admit you cannot do this alone. In fact, recognizing your limits is the doorway to deeper strength, because it reminds you that you were never meant to be your own source. You are tired, yes, but you are not weak. You are human, you are fighting, you are enduring, and that takes more strength than you realize. The battle of the mind is one of the fiercest battles you will ever fight, because no one else can see it. There are wars that leave visible scars, and then there are wars that leave invisible ones, the kind that happen behind your eyes, the kind that replay in your thoughts, the kind where you can be smiling on the outside while chaos is raging within. Negative feelings rarely begin as loud screams. They begin as whispers. "You're not enough. You always mess things up. They don't really care about you. This will never change." At first, they seem small, harmless, just thoughts, but the mind is powerful. What you allow to stay will eventually shape how you see yourself, how you see others, and even how you see God. And here is what makes this battle so exhausting. It is constant. You can silence one thought, and another appears. You can win one day, and the next morning the same voice is waiting. It questions your worth. It magnifies your mistakes. It replays your failures in high definition while minimizing your victories. Negative feelings feed on repetition. The more you think I'm not good enough, the more your mind searches for evidence to prove it. The more you think I'll always be stuck, the more trapped you begin to feel. Your mind becomes a courtroom, and you are both the accused and the judge, and somehow you always end up guilty. But not every thought deserves your agreement. Just because you think something does not mean it is true. Some thoughts are born from fear, some are rooted in past wounds, some are echoes of things spoken over you years ago by people who were hurting themselves. And if you are not careful, you will build your identity around voices that were never meant to define you. This is why guarding your mind is not optional, it is survival. You cannot stop every negative thought from entering, but you can decide whether it gets to stay. You can question it, challenge it, replace it. When your mind says you're a failure, pause and ask, is that the whole truth? When it says you'll never recover, ask, who told me that? When it says you're alone, remember the people who have stood beside you. You have more authority over your thoughts than you realize. The mind is like a garden. If you do not intentionally plant truth, weeds will grow on their own. Doubt grows naturally. Fear grows naturally. Comparison grows naturally. But faith, peace, confidence, those must be planted and watered daily. Sometimes overcoming negative feelings begins with small, stubborn decisions. Choosing to speak one positive truth when your emotions feel dark. Choosing to step outside when your mind wants to isolate. Choosing to pray even when you feel numb. Choosing to believe that this season is not permanent. It will not always feel powerful. In fact, it may feel weak and fragile. But every time you reject a lie and replace it with truth, you are winning ground. And be patient with yourself. The mind does not heal overnight, especially if it has carried pain for years. Some thought patterns were built slowly through disappointment, rejection, trauma. Dismantling them takes time and compassion. Do not condemn yourself for struggling mentally. You are not crazy. You are not broken beyond repair. You are human, and healing is a process. The battlefield of the mind is real. But so is your ability to fight back, and you are stronger than the thoughts trying to defeat you. There is a weight you have been carrying that you were never meant to carry alone. Some of it is responsibility, some of it is regret, some of it is fear about what might happen tomorrow. And somewhere along the way, you convinced yourself that if you just held it tighter, managed it better, controlled it more carefully, you could prevent everything from falling apart. But the tighter you grip, the heavier it becomes. You replay conversations in your head, trying to fix what was said. You rehearse future scenarios, trying to prepare for outcomes that may never come. You take on other people's emotions as if they are your assignment to solve. You feel responsible for everyone's happiness, everyone's stability, everyone's peace, and it is exhausting. You were not created to be the savior of your world. There is an exchange that heaven offers, but it requires something that feels terrifying: release. To exchange your burden means you first admit you have one. It means saying, God, this is too heavy for me. And pride resists that sentence. Fear resists it. Control resists it, because surrender feels like losing. It feels like giving up. It feels like stepping into the unknown without a guarantee. But surrender is not weakness. It is trust in action. When you carry everything yourself, You live in constant tension. Your shoulders tighten, your thoughts race, your sleep becomes shallow. You are physically present but mentally overwhelmed. And even when nothing is happening in the moment, your body feels like something is about to go wrong. That is what unexchanged burdens do. They keep you in survival mode. But imagine what would happen if even for a moment you opened your hands. If you stopped trying to control how people see you, if you stopped trying to force doors to open, if you stopped trying to fix every broken piece by yourself. What if you trusted that God cares more about your situation than you do? Exchanging your burden does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop carrying what only He can handle. You bring your anxiety, He gives you peace that does not make logical sense. You bring your confusion, He gives you clarity step by step. You bring your weakness, He gives you strength that feels supernatural. But you cannot receive with clenched fists. Some of you are tired because you are holding onto outcomes that are not in your control. You are gripping relationships, careers, timelines, expectations, and your hands are shaking from the strain. Release them, not because they do not matter, but because you matter too. God does not ask you to carry the weight of tomorrow. He asks you to trust Him with today, just this step, just this breath. And when fear whispers, if you let go, everything will fall apart. Answer it with faith. If I hold on alone, I will fall apart. There is relief in surrender, real relief. The kind that softens your chest. The kind that allows you to exhale fully for the first time in a long time. You do not have to have every answer. You do not have to solve every problem. You do not have to be strong every second. Lay it down, not dramatically, not perfectly, just honestly. And in that honest surrender, you will discover something powerful. The weight you thought would crush you becomes lighter when it is placed in stronger hands. There is something powerful happening every day that you may not even realize. You are prophesying over your own life. With your words, the things you say about yourself in private moments matter more than the things people say about you in public, because eventually you start believing the voice you hear the most, and for many of us, that voice has not been kind. I'm so stupid, I'll never get it right, nothing good ever happens to me, I'm always the problem. Maybe you say it jokingly. Maybe you whisper it in frustration. Maybe you think it silently when no one is around. But words, even quiet ones, carry weight. They settle into your heart. They shape your confidence. They build the atmosphere of your mind. If you constantly declare defeat over yourself, your spirit begins to sit down before the battle even starts. Speaking life is not pretending everything is perfect. It is choosing not to curse yourself in the middle of imperfection. There is already enough negativity in the world. There are already enough critics. Do not become your own enemy. You have survived things you once thought would break you. You have overcome days you didn't think you would get through. And yet you still speak as if you are weak, as if you are incapable, as if you are permanently damaged. Listen to the way you talk to yourself. Would you speak to someone you love that way? Would you tell your friend you'll never change? Would you tell your child you're just a failure? Then why do you say it to yourself? Your words create internal environments. When you speak hopelessness, your mind feels darker. When you speak faith, even if your voice shakes, something shifts. Speaking life sometimes feels awkward at first. When you have spent years saying, I can't, it feels strange to say, I can, when you have believed I'm not enough. It feels unnatural to say, I am growing, when your emotions scream, give up. It feels almost foolish to whisper, keep going. But this is how renewal begins, not always with a miracle, but with a declaration. I am not where I want to be, but I am not where I used to be. This season is hard, but it is not forever. I feel tired, but I am still chosen. I made mistakes, but I am not a mistake. Life and death are in the power of the tongue, and that includes the way you speak to yourself. You cannot control every circumstance. You cannot control every opinion, but you can control the narrative you repeat in your own heart. And here is something beautiful. Your words do not have to be loud to be powerful. Even a quiet prayer counts. Even a soft affirmation whispered through tears matters. Even saying, God, help me, is speaking life because it acknowledges hope. You may not feel strong when you speak positively. You may not immediately feel different, but consistency changes you. The more you declare truth, the more your mind begins to align with it. Stop announcing your defeat before the outcome is decided. Stop labeling yourself by your lowest moments. Stop shrinking your future with your present frustration. Speak life, not because everything is easy, but because your soul needs to hear hope, especially from you. There is a promise for the weary, and it is not just poetic language, it is survival. When you have given everything you have and still feel like it is not enough, when you wake up tired and go to bed tired and wonder if this is just who you are now, it is easy to believe that exhaustion is permanent, that this heaviness is your new normal, that the spark you once had is gone for good. But exhaustion is not your ending. It feels final when you are in it. It feels like the walls are closing in. Like joy is something other people experience. Like strength belongs to a former version of you. You scroll through old pictures and barely recognize the person smiling back. You remember how passionate you used to be, how hopeful, how driven, and now you just feel drained. But renewal does not always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it begins quietly. It begins the moment you decide not to give up. It begins when you whisper one more prayer. It begins when you choose to rest instead of quit. It begins when you believe, even slightly, that this is not the end of your story. Waiting on God is not passive. It is one of the hardest things you will ever do. Because while you are waiting, life keeps happening. Bills still come. Responsibilities still call. Emotions still rise and fall. And in the waiting, you can feel forgotten. But waiting is not wasting. There is something happening beneath the surface that you cannot see. Just because you do not feel stronger today does not mean strength is not being rebuilt. Muscles grow in recovery. Faith deepens in silence. Character is formed in hidden seasons. Renewal often comes after surrender. When you finally admit, I cannot do this on my own, something shifts, not always externally at first, but internally. The pressure to perform eases. The need to prove yourself softens. The frantic striving begins to slow down. And slowly strength returns. Not the loud, dramatic kind. Not the kind that makes headlines, but a steady strength. A quiet resilience. The kind that allows you to face another day without collapsing under it. You may not leap immediately. You may not feel like you are soaring, but one morning you will notice that you got out of bed with a little less dread. One afternoon you will realize you handled something that used to overwhelm you. One night you will fall asleep without your mind racing as much as it used to. That is renewal. It does not erase what you have been through. It redeems it, The very season that drained you begins to deepen you. The pain that once felt pointless begins to produce compassion. The waiting that felt unbearable begins to build patience and trust. And one day, maybe sooner than you think, you will look back at this exhausted version of yourself with tenderness instead of shame. You will say, you were tired, but you didn't quit. You were weary, but you kept believing. Exhaustion may visit you, but it does not get to define you, because the same God who sees your weariness also supplies your renewal. And what feels like the end right now may just be the place where your strength is being reborn.